had been discussing about the present relevance of Greece in connection to philosophy, and we will further take it up before we try to connect the interconnectedness of Greek philosophy with Indian philosophy towards the end of this lecture. This is Dr. Ananya Barwa, Associate Professor in the Department of Philosophy, Hindu College. Now, going ahead, as we had been discussing, that Greece has been considered the holy place of philosophy because obviously it originated rational inquiry, it nurtured the earliest great thinkers, it allowed open intellectual exploration, it created systems of thought that shaped all of Western education and culture. Greece, however, was not the only ancient civilization with deep thought, but it made philosophy a way of life and a public pursuit, and that is why its legacy endures so powerfully. Let's talk about the birthplace of foundational ideas, Greece. Modern philosophy, politics, ethics, and science still stand on Greek foundations. Democracy as practiced today was first theorized and experimented within ancient Athens. Ethical reasoning, including virtue ethics, Aristotle's, is still a living area of moral philosophy. Logical reasoning, formal logic, introduced by Aristotle, underpins computer science, law, and mathematics. So, today's disciplines repeatedly return to Greek thinkers when addressing contemporary issues like what is justice, what is the good life, how should society be governed, and so on. Secondly, Greek philosophers in modern curricula. Philosophy departments worldwide still begins with Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, including University of Delhi. Greek thought forms the foundation of liberal arts education in Western and global institutions. Plato's Republic, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, and Socrates' Dialogues are required reading for students of philosophy, political science, law, and ethics. 3. Contemporary ethical and political questions. Ancient Greek philosophy continues to inform. Bioethics, for example, Aristotle's virtue ethics is used to discuss topics like AI ethics, euthanasia, and medical responsibility. Environmental philosophy. Concepts of telos or purpose and balance from Greek thought are relevant in ecological ethics. Democracy and justice. Plato's and Aristotle's critiques of democracy help scholars reflect on modern democratic challenges, example, misinformation, populism, and so on. Fourth, public life and personal wisdom. Greek philosophy isn't just academic, it has practical life applications. The Stoic school, founded in Athens, has had a major revival in recent years. Thinkers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus are popular among business leaders, mental health practitioners, and self-help communities. Stoic principles focus on what you can control, accept what you cannot, are echoed in modern mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Books like The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday show how Greek wisdom is helping people deal with modern stress and complexity. Fifth, Greek heritage and cultural tourism. Greece today remains a living symbol of philosophical heritage. Tourists visit Plato's Academy ruins, Aristotle's Lyceum, and the Agora of Athens not just as archaeological sites, but as sacred spaces of thought. Modern Greece hosts philosophy festivals, lectures, and conferences that celebrate and extend this heritage. Digital and global access. Online platforms like Coursera, YouTube, and podcasts continue to offer courses on Greek philosophy. Scholars globally engage with Plato's dialectic method and Aristotle's classification in debates on everything from AI to political ethics. Greece's intellectual history is globalized. Its influence transcends borders. So, Greece may no longer be the center of world politics or economy, but it remains the intellectual homeland of philosophy. Its thinkers continue to shape our systems of knowledge, our political ideals, our personal values. In a world searching for wisdom and crisis, complexity and technological disruption, the Greek philosophical legacy is more relevant than ever, not as a museum relic, but as a living tradition of inquiry, reason, and reflection. Now, the common features of early Greek philosophy and Indian philosophy would be explored to see if they have any connectedness, and if so, what are their similarities, especially from their ontological, epistemological, and metaphysical explorations. While early Greek thinkers sought the arche, the fundamental principle of existence, Indian philosophy, particularly in Vedic, Upanishad, and early Buddhist thought, pursued Brahman, ultimate reality, Prakriti, nature, and Atman, self-consciousness. In this PPT as displayed here, we see that both traditions, Greek philosophy and Indian philosophy, have had some interesting lappings or overlappings. Arche versus Brahman, Prakriti. Thales' water as arche, which has been a single underlying principle that unifies existence. In Indian philosophy, it is Brahman, or as found in the Upanishads, the singular, ultimate reality behind all phenomena. In Greek philosophy, Anaximander' Apeiron, the boundless, undefined source of things. In Sankhya philosophy, we find the concept of Prakriti, where the eternal, ever-changing material reality that gives rise to creation. Heraclitus's fire and logos, we see that the world is in constant flux, ruled by an underlying rational principle. Indian philosophy, we see Buddha, impermanence and dharma. Reality is ever-changing, governed by natural laws. So we see that the universe as an ordered system. In Greek thought, Heraclitus's logos or universal reason mirrors the Rita or cosmic order of the Vedas. The Pythagoreans' focus on numbers is similar to Vedantic and Jaina mathematical cosmology, where numbers and ratios describe cosmic structures. Going ahead, when we talk about the problem of change and permanence, we find that both the thinkers from the East and the West, that is the Greek philosophers and Indian philosophers, whether the reality is fixed or unchanging or is in constant flux, there are some that are worth talking about. Under the Greek thinkers, we have Parmenides, who had talked about reality is one unchanging, it's eternal, being. Indian thinkers, Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharyas, we see that for them the world is an illusion, Maya, only Brahman is real. Heraclitus, everything is in a state of flux, becoming. Buddha and Nagarjuna, for them reality is impermanent, empty of inherent nature, Shunyata. So, we do note that reality could be dual or non-dual. Sankhya's dualism, Purusha and Prakriti, is somewhat similar to Plato's form versus sensory world. Advaita Vedanta's non-dualism, which is all is Brahman, echoes Parmenides' absolute being. Now, if we come to talk about epistemology of knowledge and perception of both the traditions, we see that again there is some interconnectedness between Greek thought and Indian thought as displayed in the PPT here. In this Greek view, we see empiricism of Aristotle, where knowledge is told to have come from sense experience. In Indian view, we have Nyaya or Indian logic. Perception or pratyaksha is the first step in knowledge. Under the Greek view, we have rationalism, Plato, Pythagoras, where true knowledge is beyond the senses. Indian view, we have Vedanta, Jnana Yoga, where higher knowledge is true, meditation and reason, Jnana. We also have skepticism, Philo, where reality is uncertain, so suspended judgment. Indian view, we have the Madhyamika of Buddhism, where everything is empty, shunyata, so clinging to certainty is delusional. So, Indian Nyaya philosophy's logical methods parallel Aristotle's syllogisms. Both traditions developed rigorous debate cultures, Greek sophists and of course Indian Vedic debates. Now, if we further talk about ethics and the good life now, we see that the Greek and Indian philosophers explored how to live a virtuous and meaningful life. For the Greek ethics, Socrates' virtue or arete says that knowledge of the good. Indian ethics, Bhagavad Gita, we see there has been discussions about true knowledge or jnana leads to selfless action, karma yoga. Aristotle, the highest goal or eudaimonia is a life of virtue and reason. Indian ethics, dharma, Hinduism and Buddhism, where the highest goal is righteous living and liberation, moksha or nibbana. Further, when we talk about ethics and the good life of philosophers, we see that Stoics, regarding self-discipline and liberation, we see that Stoics are those who teaches us to control of desires, which is somewhat similar to Buddhists' detachment of vairagya. Plato's philosopher king mirrors the Hindu ideal of the enlightened yogi ruler. Now, the metaphysical unity, the soul and the cosmos. Both the traditions ask, what is the self? How does it relate to the universe? In the Greek view, Pythagoras and Plato, the soul is immortal and reincarnates. Indian view, Hinduism, the Atma reincarnates based on karma. Buddhism, of course, is the Anatmavada or the no self theory. Greek view again, Plato's world soul, the cosmos is alive and rational. Under the Indian view, we see Brahman as universal consciousness. The universe is interconnected as one. So, we see that with Greek, there has been the cosmic justice, which has been similar to karma and dharma. Under the Orphic and the Pythagorean, the reincarnation mirrors the Indian samsara or the cycle of birth and rebirth. So, what then are the final thoughts? The final thoughts are the meeting of two traditions, allegorically or metaphorically, where Greek and Indian thought were parallel yet distinct. Their key intersections show metaphysical first principles, RK versus Brahman, Prakriti, which is Indian. The nature of change, we see Heraclitus' flux versus Buddhists' impermanence. Epistemology, we also see Plato's reason versus Nyaya's perception and Buddhist skepticism. Ethics, we talked about the Greek virtue ethics versus Indian dharma and renunciation. Cosmic and soul unity, Plato's world soul versus Brahman and Atman. So the question then is, did they influence each other? Maybe yes, maybe not. Because there could have been possible cultural exchange via Parsia, Alexander's conquests and so on, and Greek Stoicism and Indian Jainism, Buddhism do share deep ethical similarities. And similarly, we do see connections with Hellenistic and Buddhistic art fused in Gandhara, the Greco-Buddhist culture, which is very popular. So, the cross cultural exchange between Greek and Indian philosophy, the philosophical ideas of early Greek and Indian traditions did not develop in complete isolation. Historical evidence suggests significant cultural interactions, particularly through Persian, Hellenistic, and trade networks. Possibly that there were some points of contact. Several historical events and trade route facilitated interactions between Greek and Indian thought. The Persian Empire ruled both Greek Ionian cities and northwestern India, Gandhara, Punjab. Greek philosophers like Heraclitus and Pythagoras might have been exposed to Indian ideas through Parsi scholars and traders. The Parsi Magi or Zoroastrian priests shared knowledge of cosmology, ethics, and dualistic thought. Ahura Mazda versus Angra Mainyu, which may have influenced Greek and Indian dualistic system. Plato's form, Sankhya's Purusha Prakriti. We also see Alexander the Great's conquest somewhere roughly around 4th century BCE, who had invaded India, leading to Greek settlements in Gandhara. Greek philosophers like Philo, founder of skepticism, traveled with Alexander and met Indian ascetics, possibly influencing his doubt-centered philosophy. Hellenistic rulers like the Indo-Greek king Meander or Melinda converted to Buddhism, showing deeper cross-cultural influence. The Silk Road and Indian Greek kingdoms, 3rd century to 5th century CE, the Indo-Greek kingdoms were centers of cultural exchange, blending Greek and Buddhist thought. The Gandhara school of art mixed Greek realism with Buddhist symbolism, visualizing representing Greek-Indo fusion. Stoic and Buddhist ethics bear strong resemblances, possibly due to Greco-Buddhist interactions. So now the question is the role of doubt in philosophy. Greek skepticism, Philo, Sextus Empiricus, and Buddhists' middle way, Nagarjuna or Buddha, we see that they rejected an absolute dogma. Both traditions do teach that letting go of rigid beliefs lead to inner peace and enlightenment. Now, when we talk about Stoicism, Zeno, and Buddhism, Dhamma, we do see some connect. Under Stoicism of Zeno, Epictetus, Marcus, and Eros, the logos or universal reason governs everything. However, under Buddhism or Theravada and Mahayana, Dharma or cosmic law governs everything. Under Stoicism, suffering comes from desire and attachments. For Buddhism, suffering comes from cravings. So this PPT shows the possible connections of Zeno and Dhamma or Buddhism. Further, when we talk about Stoicism, we see that their connect has been to achieve peace by accepting fate. In Buddhism, it is to achieve nirvana by detaching from desires. Stoicism is to control only what is within you. Buddhism is master the mind through meditation, and that is again inside you. So, the ethics of detachment. Both Stoics and Buddhists see inner peace as overcoming emotions. The Greek ideal of self-discipline and Buddhists' equanimity are nearly identical. Self-discipline of Greek ideal could be the ataraxia, and the Buddhist equanimity is the upekkha. Now, further going ahead, if we connect Plato's forms and Advaita Vedanta's Shankaracharya, as in the PPT here, we see that Plato's idealism and Advaita Vedanta's juxtaposition is quite interesting. Plato's idealism, the world of forms, is ultimately real. Advaita Vedanta's Brahman is the only real existence. Plato's idealism, material things are illusions, reflections of pure forms. Advaita Vedanta, the world is Maya, illusion, only Brahman is real. The Plato's idealism, the soul must rise above the material world to reach truth. Advaita Vedanta, the Atman, self, is identical with Brahman, realized true knowledge. So we see that the reality beyond the physical world, where Plato's metaphysics aligns with Vedantic non-duality, Advaita, the allegory of the cave, Plato's Republic, mirrors Vedantic self-realization. Both describe awakening to higher truth. Now, what is also interesting is the question or the point about Aristotle's unmoved mover and Ishvara or God in Yoga and Advaita Vedanta. As we can see from the PPT here, Aristotle's prime mover and Indian Ishvara or Advaita and Yoga Sutras, Aristotle's unmoved mover is the first cause of everything but remains detached. Similarly, Ishvara or Supreme Self is unchanging and eternal beyond worldly suffering. Aristotle's prime mover is the highest reality, is pure thought, nous. Indian Ishvara is the highest reality, is pure consciousness, chit. So we do note that the idea of a supreme being, both the systems describe as a transcendent, impersonal principle guiding the universe. Aristotle's nous, divine intellect, closely resembles Ishvara to a certain extent, the supreme consciousness as found in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. So what then is the lasting impact of Greek-Indian exchange? Buddhist and Hellenistic art. Gandhara sculptures blended Greek realism with Buddhist themes. Greek influence on Indian logic, that is, we see the Nyaya school's logical structures resemble Aristotelian syllogisms. Indian influence on Greek skepticism can be noticed or can be observed via Pharaoh's skepticism, which was likely influenced by Buddhist and Jaina thought. Please mind the word likely. Spread of Indian thought to the West. Neoplatonism. Plotinus's one resembles Advaita Vedanta. Gnostic Christianity observed Indian and Persian dualism. So then, what do we see? We do see a deep philosophical dialogue implicitly. Greek and Indian philosophy were parallel, yet intertwined, exchanging ideas on reality and the first cause. Arche versus Brahman versus prime mover. Knowledge and doubt. Greek skepticism versus Buddhist emptiness can be noticed here. Now, when we talk about ethics and liberation, we see the Stoic detachment versus Buddhist nirvana. Further, when we talk about metaphysics and unity, we see Plato's form versus Advaita Vedanta. So, whether it be in the field of metaphysics, ethics, epistemology, and reality, there have had been overlappings, knowingly or unknowingly, from the Indian side, especially Buddhism, Jainism, and to the Greek side, especially also Advaita Vedanta, with say Plato's forms or Stoicism or Greek skepticism. Then the last question that one should be going away with is, did one influence the other? While direct influence is debated, however, historical contact vis-a-vis the Persian Empire, Alexander the Great, Silk Road suggests mutual exchange. So, to a certain extent, one can say that Greek rationalism and skepticism and maybe Indian spiritual introspection did shape the global thought for centuries, and we keep seeing its impact even today. So, to outrightly reject the cross-cultural exchange between Greek philosophy and Indian philosophy would be to foolhardiness. We do see that the philosophical ideas, they did not definitely develop in complete isolation, and there have been evidences here and there which did suggest significant cultural interactions, and majorly so because through the Persian, Hellenistic, and the trade networks. So yes, to a certain extent, there has had been influence on each other implicitly, and we have just about discussed the same about the meeting of two major traditions, the Greek and Indian thought, which were parallel, yes, yet they have been distinct. So be it the metaphysical first principles of Arche vis-a-vis Brahman and Prakriti of Indian philosophy, or the nature of change of Heraclitus's flux vis-a-vis Buddhists' impermanence, or epistemologically Platonic reason versus Nyaya perceptions versus Buddhist skepticism, to ethics' Greek virtue ethics versus Indian dharma and renunciation, and last but not the least, to cosmic and soul unity of Plato's world soul vis-a-vis Brahman and Atman have been explored in this lecture. Thank you so much.